An Oily Affair, Primary Education in Equatorial Guinea by Jennifer Davis, PIM 71 IELR, August 22, 2012. Field Focus, Primary Education in Equatorial Guinea. Critical Variables, National Policy, Financial Resources. Stakeholders, students, parents, teachers, government, foreign investors. Scope, national and international. Lens, qualitative research lens from a structural functionalist framework. First, I'll discuss my introduction and background on Equatorial Guinea. Then, foreign investment in the education sector and the Horizon 2020 plan. Next, I'll discuss globalization and education, and then finally, conclusions and future study. Equatorial Guinea states in its constitution that every child shall have the right to a primary education and the right to work as a social obligation. Both of these rights will contribute to, quote, the development of its natural resources conditions to eradicate poverty, misery, and ensure the equal occupation of its national territory and shield its citizens from need, end quote. And that's from the Constitution on page 25. Equatorial Guinea seeks to accomplish these goals through the proliferation of teacher training programs and the construction of schools, with policy laid out in the Horizon 2020 plan, which seeks to attract international investors and benefit the primary educational system through teacher training programs and the construction of schools. And now for a little background on Equatorial Guinea. A former Spanish colony, Equatorial Guinea faces unique challenges in not only the political, economic, and social sectors, as the country recently tapped for its oil reserves, but also in the education sector, as it works to reach students isolated by limited infrastructure. Surrounded to the north by Cameroon and to the south by Gabon, Equatorial Guinea must straddle not only Francophone influence, but also work with formidable trade partners across the Atlantic, with South America to the west as well as the United States. From 1471 until 1968, Equatorial Guinea was occupied by various leaders from Portugal, Spain, and Britain. That's from Background Notes, 2010. The Economist Intelligence Unit notes that, quote, at independence, Equatorial Guinea inherited an education system with remarkable enrollment and literacy rates by regional standards. But these deteriorated quickly during the 1970s when the then president, Francisco Macias Nguema, closed many schools as part of a drive to eradicate the influence of Western imperialism, end quote. Following a reprieve from religion after Macias's regime, the Roman Catholic Church nonetheless regained influence in Equatorial Guinea after President Teodoro Obiang Nguema, Macias's nephew, took over power in a coup in 1979, power that he maintains today. And now let's talk about foreign investment in the education sector and the Horizon 2020 plan. Foreign interest in Equatorial Guinea is high due to the oil reserves discovered in the 1990s. Numerous policies have come about as a direct and indirect result of the oil discovery, including the Horizon 2020 plan, which lays out a plan for improving access to services such as education. As a dictator in power for over 3 decades, President Obiang recognizes both the value and danger of educating the masses in his country. While Equatorial Guinea is in need of qualified workers in order to contribute to the local economy and the recent booming offshore oil trade, education is also a nuanced topic for dictators seeking to hold on to their power. After all, education is power, and an educated nation could more deftly untangle the twisted web of power Obiang holds than could an uninformed people. Equatorial Guinea's Horizon 2020 plan mirrors many of the goals set forth in the Millennium Development Goals, with a focus on technology and education as a way of expanding opportunities in education. President Obiang and members from his cabinet recently traveled to Houston, Texas, to present the Horizon 2020 plan that aligns their goals for oil exploitation with opportunities to expand Equatorial Guinea's infrastructure. This partnership is a potential win-win, as Equatorial Guinea's citizens could gain access to much-needed services such as education and medical care, while the roads are literally open for trade and export of Equatorial Guinea's natural resources, from Green Technology News 2012. Mining companies such as Hess Oil, who is currently investing in the Program for Education Development of Equatorial Guinea, or PRODEGE, have an interest to not only counter the negative effects of mining by investing in Equatorial Guinea's infrastructure, they are also seeking to bolster their public image on the local and international levels. How can Equatorial Guinea seek to reap the most benefits from partnerships such as this one? As Okano and Sukiya state, cited in Kubo and Fossum, a structural functionalist approach to comparative education, quote, points optimistically to the possibility for societies to seek shared norms and values, end quote, and that's on page 34. How are companies like Hess working to promote a structural functionalist approach? Also critical to the study of the formal education system in Equatorial Guinea is the question of power distance, an element of Hofstede's analysis of education, and the degree to which a group of people will tolerate social inequalities, as cited in Kubo and Fossum, 2007, page 91. Equatorial Guineans possess a high power distance relationship as they tolerate their poor education system while billions of dollars in oil pour out of their coastal pipelines and into the pockets of foreign investors and their country's leaders. And now I'll talk a little bit about globalization and education. Many obstacles lie in Equatorial Guinea's path as they seek to join and compete in the global economy. Jeffrey Herbst, in his article entitled Africa and the Challenges of Globalization, notes that, quote, there are many reasons for Africa's poverty: the poor, colonial inheritance, dependence on raw materials, difficult geography, and natural disasters. However, the most important barrier to Africa participating in the international economy is the crisis of governance, end quote. And that's on page 6. Equatorial Guinea has felt the effects of globalization at every level, local, national, regional, as well as cultural. Is globalization a force to be reckoned with or an ally? Siraj Abdul Karim, while discussing the globalization of education in Nigeria, notes that, quote, it has become clearer that education is the source to development. It is the weapon to face the challenge of globalization by respective individuals and nations. For my conclusion, here are some conclusions and ideas for future study. While Equatorial Guinea states in its constitution that every child shall have the right to a primary education, how are stakeholders holding the government accountable? As the country seeks to expand their international presence to encourage investing towards a more equitable Equatorial Guinea, is the construction of schools and improved teacher training enough? Further research is needed to assess local, national, and international satisfaction with the education system and the impact of foreign investment in primary education. With limited primary research, a repressed media, and an elite government that suppresses contention, it will remain difficult for stakeholders to get a real picture of this oily affair. Thank you.